I want to pose a question to all you wonderful presuppositionalists out there. How do you know for certain that God has revealed anything to you? This is a question you can't afford to ignore, because if it is true that you can't be certain that what you believe to be divine revelation actually is divine revelation, then, by your own admission, it follows that you can't know anything, and your entire worldview collapses. And let's get one thing straight. It is not sufficient to claim that I know that God revealed things to me such that I can know them for certain because God revealed it to me such that I could know it for certain. What people like Eric Hovind call virtuously circular reasoning is in reality a logical fallacy known as assuming the consequent or begging the question. It's an invalid form of reasoning that can't produce knowledge at all, let alone certain knowledge. Such a fallacious argument can be used to prove literally anything. For example, someone could say, I know Bigfoot exists because I know Bigfoot exists, but that doesn't provide a sound argument that Bigfoot actually exists. In fact, it does nothing but beg the question, does Bigfoot exist? Saying, I know God reveals because God reveals is equally absurd. Also, asserting that atheists can't know anything because they can't account for truth or knowledge is also fallacious and invalid. It's what philosophers call a red herring, an irrelevant claim made to distract from the discussion at hand. Whether or not I or other secularists can account for knowledge is completely irrelevant to the topic of whether or not you can know for certain that God has revealed anything to you. If you want to discuss secular epistemology, I'll be more than happy to do that in another video. Now that we have that out of the way, let's discuss one reason why it is impossible for you to know for certain that God has revealed things to you. This isn't the only reason presuppositionalism fails, just one of the many ways it implodes. First, however, let's lay out some definitions to avoid the fallacy of equivocation. For the purposes of this discussion, let's define knowledge as justified true belief and certainty as indubitability, or the impossibility of reasonable doubt. If you don't know what these terms mean, please follow the links in the description box. They give a brief overview of these concepts. One of the reasons why it's impossible for you to know for certain that your revelation is valid is that you have no way of validating your own reasoning and senses. Neuroscience tells us that our cognitive faculties are not always reliable. We can engage in confirmation bias, suffer from hallucinations or delusions, fall prey to illusions, or simply be dreaming. For instance, suppose you have an experience in which you believe you see a cat walking on a road. You could really be seeing a cat walking on a road, but you could also be hallucinating or dreaming this. How could you know that you're really seeing a cat and not simply dreaming or hallucinating? Any evidence or sense data you could appeal to could also be part of the dream or the hallucination. You could pragmatically choose to behave as though the cat was actually there, but you could never have certain knowledge that your experience was factual. The same concept applies to your belief that God has revealed things to you. Assuming, for the sake of argument, that God exists, an experience of divine revelation could in fact be genuine, but it could also be the product of confirmation bias, hallucination, delusion, or dreaming. There is no evidence that you could appeal to, including the Bible, personal experience, church teaching, or even divine apparition, that could eliminate the possibility of error, because all of these things could be part of the hallucination, delusion, or dream. The fact that you believe God told you that your reasoning and senses are valid also doesn't allow you to escape this problem. This is because you must use your reasoning and senses to determine that God has revealed something to you. What you feel to be God's revelation could also be a part of a confirmation bias, hallucination, or dream. After all, you've probably dreamed about God, church, the Bible, or prayer before. How do you know that the experience of revelation, whether through the Bible, the church, or some other method you're having right now, isn't just a product of your own faulty reasoning? Also, even if your reasoning is valid and God is legitimately revealing something to you, you still can't have certain knowledge because God himself may be lying or mistaken. Before you assert that this is impossible, the Bible specifically discusses instances where God lies or is ignorant of a certain matter. See Ezekiel 14:9 and Genesis 18:9, among others. And also consider that a deceptive God would try to get his creations to believe that he is perfectly truthful. This would aid in his deception. Given this, there is no way for you to know whether or not a genuine revelation from God is accurate. Sorry, presuppositionalist, but there is no way out of this. You are put in the same epistemic position as the secularist when it comes to justifying your reasoning. You don't have some kind of holy trump card to escape this basic epistemic issue. In fact, you're actually in a worse position, because secularists can appeal to pragmatic utility, or that which works, as evidence that our reasoning is valid, while all you can appeal to is a 2,700-year-old anthology of contradictory desert fables. Face it, presuppositionalism is not only logically incoherent, but beyond ridiculous.